and your spouse has left you for somebody else and never comes back no more. Or worse yet, imagine that you're in Afghanistan with an infantry squad. You get separated from your squad. You get captured by the Taliban with no hope of rescue. And that gives you a glimpse of what it's like to be banished from the presence of God, where we can find joy, blessing, and hope. I spoke about punishment. I spoke about destruction. I spoke about banishment. But I believe that there's still one objection left concerning hell. Because I've been asking a series of questions. And the question that somebody might have is, all right, chaplain. I got it. You described hell in graphic and horrible terms. I'm kind of shaken up. But what about those people who live out in the jungle somewhere? Or some remote island in the South Pacific? Or in a country where it's illegal to preach Christianity, where there's no churches on every corner? What about those people who do not or may not hear the gospel? Are they still responsible? Have you not asked that question? I've been asked that question, and I believe that some of you have asked that question, may have thought about it at some time. And I believe it's a fair question. Or maybe the other question you might ask is, okay, the guy's really bad, he does die, but when he's confronted with the reality of hell, he's going to change his mind. All right, God, I was just playing around. I was just playing. I see it's real. I see the fire. I see the demons walking around. This is no joke. I'm sorry. Just give me a second chance. Right? That's what a lot of people say. I'll get right when I die. But the thing is, this question, or those questions reveal a worldview called universalism. And universalism argues that eventually in the end, everybody will get saved. It's going to all work out. It's going to be a wash. Well, if that was true, then why send your son to die on behalf of sinners? If it's all going to work out in the end, why would you send your son to die for the murderer, the liar, the thief, the rapist, the adulterer, the Osama bin Ladens, the Hitlers? It's a waste of time, right? If it's all going to work out in the end, I wouldn't even break a sweat. This is the reason why people are still responsible. So let me answer the first question about the people who might live out somewhere who may not have heard the gospel. Next slide. This is the one with creation on the back, worshiping the Creator instead of the created. Let me read from Romans chapter 1, verses 18 to 20, verse 23 and 25. If you turn to that in your Bible, you get the four Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, Acts, and then the book of Romans. The Apostle Paul writes, "The wrath of God is being revealed from heaven against all the godliness and wickedness of men who suppress the truth by their wickedness. Since what may be known about God is plain to them, because God has made it plain to them. For since the creation of the world, God, invisible qualities, his internal power, and divine nature have been clearly seen, been understood from what has been made, so that men are without excuse." Verse 23, "And exchanged the glory of the immortal God for images made to look like mortal man, and birds, and animals, and reptiles. They exchanged the truth of God for a lie, and worshipped and served created things rather than the Creator, who is forever praised. Amen." In this passage, Paul is very clear. All of nature speaks of God's glory and that he exists. Why do you think you walk in nature, you pause for a moment? How can a blind, inanimate force called evolution create beauty, poetry, majesty? It doesn't know what it is. It means it has to speak to something greater than ourselves. It's God. And as a chaplain, and before I was a chaplain, I've been around the world. I've been in places where it seems like the gospel has not been heard. I've been to the jungles of Cambodia, but I saw them worshiping the trees and the birds and the stones, and they were without excuse. Because they knew that deep down they meant to worship something, but they worshiped the wrong something. I've been to islands. I'm here in the Middle East, but God is still working. Because God says, whoever seeks after me will be found by me. But now I'm going to put it back on you guys. It's okay I do that? I'm going to do it anyway. So let me first talk to the believers. Jesus said, go make disciples of all nations. Amen. Let me get more specific. There are some people here I know who have been called to be a missionary, a pastor, or an evangelist. And they've been running from their call. And they won't look me in the eye right now. Stop running. Because God will pull a donut on you, swallow you up, put you somewhere you don't want to go, and you'll be proclaiming the gospel. And even if you're not called to be a missionary or a pastor or a chaplain or an evangelist, you're still a believer. And you say, well, I don't know that much. If you know A and B, you know more than the person who doesn't even know A. You say, well, how can I share my faith? The way you live your life, you speak up about Jesus. Right. Jesus died for me so I can have life in him. I cannot save me, only Jesus can. That's very simple right there. You have co-workers, you have bosses, you have friends and family. We say, chaplain, I'm in a very toxic work environment. My leadership sucks. People around me are incompetent. Well, they're probably thinking the same thing about you too. You want to see your environment change? See them get Jesus. PowerPoint slides will not change people. You can go to all the different briefs, that will not change a lick. Only thing that's going to change somebody is Jesus Christ. All right. So when you see our communities change, our cities change, we see the school violence leave and all those other different things going on in our news, they need Jesus Christ. That's the answer, bottom line. Amen. Chaplain Hip, Chaplain Martin, Chaplain Jayquest, Chaplain Yost, and myself cannot reach everybody in the Army. We cannot reach everybody in this country. But if we come together, we can do it. And when you live your life like the way you believe, people believe that you really do believe in Jesus Christ. That's tough. Jesus said it first. But let me go back to the unbelievers. Let me talk to you guys now. Maybe you're hoping for that second chance after you die. You want to party right now, right? You want to have fun? But let me read from Hebrews chapter 9, verse 27. Next slide. The writer of Hebrews says, just as man is destined to die once, and after that to face judgment. That means there's no reincarnation. You just die and there's judgment. What does that judgment look like? Next slide. We'll be in Revelation chapter 20. I'm going to read verses 11 through 15 so you get the full context. Because remember, in Revelation, it speaks of two resurrections. The first resurrection, which takes place before the millennial kingdom, where the righteous is judged before the judgment seat of Christ, and they receive the rewards or lose rewards, but they do not lose their salvation. They get new bodies and everything works out for them. And then after 1,000 years, there is the resurrection of the dead. These are the people who are trusting in themselves to get to heaven by their own merit, or they believe it's going to work out in the end. This is what Apostle John says. And then I saw a great white throne, and him was seated on it. Earth and sky fled from his presence, and there was no place for them. And I saw the dead, great and small, standing before the throne. Books were open. Another book was open, and which is the book of life. The dead were judged according to what they had done, as recorded in the books. The sea gave up the dead that were in it, and death and Hades gave up the dead that were in them. And each person was judged according to what he had done. And then death and Hades were thrown into the lake of fire, and the lake of fire is the second death. If anyone's name was not found written in the book of life,